Yeah, we're rolling. So,
Cool.
Dani Dotterosa,
What's up?
how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. We can address the baby in the room with us if you want, real fast for the audience.
The baby in the room?
Yep.
Yes, I
Yeah.
am in fact with child.
With child. That's my favorite way of putting it.
It's the best way. If anybody knows a better way, I'm always eager
I
to
am
know.
with child. We don't know the gender,
We don't.
and we're due in 3 to 6 weeks, right?
Yep, January 13th.
Are you? This is baby number 2.
Baby number 2. My son will be 3 in like 10 days.
It's a good gap. Does he understand what's going on?
Yes.
Okay.
But not fully.
Is he like excited?
Yes, but not really.
Okay.
I don't think he really gets it.
Okay.
You
Yeah, I
know?
mean, how could you if he's 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
But he's
I have a
very
3-year-old.
clingy right now. So
Okay. He
gets something.
senses something is
he
happening.
senses something.
Yeah.
And I'm loving
Have
the
you been
clinginess.
nesting? Like,
I've been nesting hardcore.
yeah, it's time. It's that time.
Like the amount of stuff we have been doing
Mm-hmm.
is
See, like,
insane.
do you have like the crib set up and everything?
Oh, we haven't even worked on the baby's room yet. But
okay.
like there's so many
Then I
things
wouldn't
we
say
needed
you've
to
been
do
nesting
around
a
the
ton.
house. Oh
Okay.
no, I have. Installing
cleaning.
shelves,
Okay.
painting things, patching up holes, hanging things, building my office
I mean,
shed.
you're like 34, 35 weeks. You might want to
34 weeks.
I want to put that crib together.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You don't
That's
want
on
your
the
husband
list.
doing that while you're at the hospital.
Yeah, that's on the list. Luckily, newborns really only need a bassinet and a
true.
changing table.
That's true. All right, if you're not going to use the crib right away, then that's fine.
Yeah,
You got weeks.
I got plenty of time.
We never did that. We never did the bassinet thing. I don't think. My wife, we just put the crib next to the bed, and then I think my wife would just get the baby, and she just slept with the baby. I don't think you're supposed to do that, but she would just feed it and fall asleep, kind of sitting up. She had a big, put a bunch
Yeah.
of pillows behind her, and that's what she liked to do. And then they would
I
just
did that a lot too.
So she'd put the baby down at night, and then but when it woke up that first time, she'd usually just hold it and then just kind of hold it the rest of the night.
Yeah, that's how I
And
was
she wouldn't
too.
let me. I never. We've had 3 kids. I never once had to feed a baby at night.
Really?
She's like, if you do that, then I just have to pump more during the day, and that, you know what I mean. So she's like, it just didn't make sense to her, for her.
Yeah,
So-
he still would bottle feed at
I
night.
offered. I was like, I'm willing to. Like, I feel like every other dad does, and she's just like, it's cool. I don't need you to.
Well, the
Okay.
study has come out that women need like 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and men only need like 6 to 8.
Oh, my wife and I are total inverts,
Really?
inverse of that. I can't function without like 7 to 8. I need
Yeah.
8 really, and then she runs just fine on like 5 or 6.
Wow, that's impressive. No, we definitely
wired
we
different.
split the duties, but I'm a breastfeeder, so it does make sense for me to get up for the most part.
Yeah.
But then like I hand him to my husband, and my husband would change him and put him back down so I could just immediately go back to sleep.
Yeah.
But this time we're going to sleep in shifts because
Okay.
that's a thing. So like we're keeping our bed in the baby's room right now. And so every other night, one of us will sleep in the same room as the baby and one of us won't.
Okay.
Because like I'll wake up to every single little sound. I'll wake up to the baby breathing
Yeah.
or cooing or something, and my
would-
husband won't.
I would just wake up in the middle of the night and panic that the baby wasn't breathing, and I
Oh,
would
yeah.
run in the other room and like watch the baby and just like make sure its chest is
know.
moving.
Did that get
Almost
better with
every
your
night.
other kids?
Yeah, because I would just psychologically would be like, they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Yes.
But then I would still every now and then go and check and just like make sure. I couldn't go
I'm
back to
still
sleep.
like
and
that
such.
with my son, almost 3.
Yeah.
He'll sleep in a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to check on him.
Yeah. It's just a.
I hate it. I hate that feeling so
It's
much.
bad. It
It's
sucks.
the worst.
It is. But that's why I just get out of bed and go check. Because
Yeah.
I tried. I would sit there and be like, they're fine. Just go back to sleep. I can't go back to sleep until I know without a doubt they're fine.
I
I just
know.
I think it's just parental instincts.
I know.
All right, Dani, why don't you tell me about what you do? You're an auctioneer, but you're a lot more than that. So give me the elevator pitch, the 90-second elevator pitch.
Yes. Okay. So I'm a benefit auctioneer and fundraising consultant. I help schools and nonprofits crush their annual galas.
Yeah.
So I will, I have over 300 events experience. I've helped raise over $50 million. So leading up to your event, I will help you make all of the decisions like how do we order our program? How many items do we have in our live auction? Our silent auction? Should we have a silent auction? Should we have a live auction? how do we want to message to our target donors, refer them to great, vendors like yourself to make sure they have an awesome mission moment video. So I'll work with them to set up a really profitable event. I'm not an event planner, but I work with them on all the fundraising details, and then I can be their MC if they need, but I'm always their auctioneer.
Because the fundraising details and the event planning are very different.
They are, and this is a distinction I like to make with my Super Bowl analogy. So I think that everyone needs to treat their annual gala like their Super Bowl. And when you do it that way, you don't wing it. You make really crisp decisions. You understand the importance of every minute of your program, of the people you invite. And within that analogy, you have offensive coaches and defensive coaches. In the gala world, your offensive coaches are your fundraising chairs, your fundraising team. The defensive ones are your event chairs, your event planning team. There's a big distinction between the two of them and the personality types that tend to thrive in each role. So when we're thinking about fundraising, we're thinking about making money, sales and marketing, essentially. And then when we're thinking about event planning, we're thinking about costs and budgets and, making people comfortable, making the event beautiful, great food choices. Some of these overlap. Some event planning decisions will really affect fundraising and vice versa. But they really are.
Like what? Like order of events?
Like order of events, or food service is a big one. Okay. So, say that you want to have like a 4-course sit-down black tie meal. Yeah. That's going to take so long that your program's not going to be able to start for a long time. And we say that 9 p.m. is like the witching hour for fundraising. You want to be wrapped by then. Okay. When you make a food service choice that's really lengthy like that, it tends to push everything back really far. Yeah. And then by the time I get on stage to do a paddle raiser, which is the part of the night where who wants to raise
people
a paddle for 1,000?
They're ready to leave.
Or they're leaving, which is...
That's the worst.
I mean, it's heartbreaking when a third of your audience is gone when you're going to ask for money. I mean, you literally lost money. I mean, it's hard to exactly quantify. That happened to us one time.
So I used to run a nonprofit, and we would do a fundraising gala, and did this for about 10 years. And we tried to do the food ourselves one time. Just like had like people like barbecue it out, and it ended up taking like an hour longer than it was supposed to. And people were just, before we got to ask people for money, people were leaving. It was on a weekday, so people had to, it was like on a Thursday night. So people had, I think it was on a Monday night, because we did everything on Mondays. And people left, and I think that was our worst. It was like our biggest. We went really big, and we had the biggest room full of people that we'd ever had. But people left before we even got to like ask them for money. Yeah. So that was rough.
Yep.
It was demoralizing.
It is demoralizing. And so when I'm consulting with a client and asking them questions, I have to figure these things out. And say they already have a 4-course meal planned, I'm like, okay, we need to talk this through. Yeah. Let's talk to your catering company. How long does this actually take? So then we'll switch things.
And add half an hour to whatever they say, probably.
Yep, and you have to add to whatever they say, because what if they're understaffed that night or something, right? So you want to preset a salad, you want to preset a dessert. We do what we can to mitigate that. Then we'll take their program and we'll flop it around and make sure, fundraising needs to be front loaded anyway, but we'll really make sure it happens. And so, that's an event planning detail that can really sabotage fundraising.
You talk about offense, like being on the offense with fundraising. What does that mean?
That means just having a mindset to make money.
Yeah.
So, really good offensive decisions, for example, is, shameless plug, hiring a professional auctioneer. Yeah. I always say not putting a professional, not putting a professional auctioneer in is like putting a high school quarterback into the Super Bowl. Right. I mean, and just hoping for a miracle. Like, that is when you try to save money on your auctioneer by having your charismatic board member do it, or your buddy from high school who's a professional speaker who's going to do a great job, when you try to save money there, that was an offensive decision you made defensively.
Yeah. It's a punt. You're punting.
You're punting. Yeah. It's so funny. I have this like whole Super Bowl analogy, but I really don't even watch sports that much. I play sports. I was a college athlete, so like I understand sports, but I always say all this crazy stuff. Like the other day I was in a meeting and I was like, I played in Super Bowl 75. And then I asked my husband the other night, I was like, has there even been 75 Super Bowls? He's like, no, not even close.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is funny.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, so that's an example of offensive thinking, which I also say, for your profession, I say the two vendors that you see as a cost that are costing you is me, a professional auctioneer,
Yeah.
but also whoever's doing your video.
Yeah.
If you're trying to save money on the person doing your video, you've lost sight of the fact that your video is an investment because it will open more wallets. It will bring in more money.
Yeah. We just saw that with one of our clients that we worked on together.
Yeah.
They had their best night, I think, ever. And we kind of both did our thing.
They had
for
a great
them.
night.
So yeah, can you speak to a little bit about that? Have you seen bad videos, and what does that impact on the room? What does that vibe in the room afterwards?
Oh my gosh, I've seen some horrible, horrible videos. What is the impact it has on the room? Well, first of all, when you're dealing with adults, all of our heads are full when we walk into an event. We've got our own grievances. We've been working all day.
We're bringing in our
we have
baggage.
things on our mind. I mean, it just is what it is. And I like to say that as you go through a program, it's like a roller coaster. You start off at the beginning of a roller coaster, you can still think. And that's where we can do things for the mind. That's where we do stats and facts. We let them know about where the money was spent from last year. We share about some new projects, but as you go up a roller coaster.
That's smart. So you front load the statistics.
Yes.
Because once they eat, the blood's rushing to their stomach.
That's part of it.
And they're not thinking
Yep.
clear. And then they're kind of like getting a little antsy.
And that's part of it, right? Yeah. But the closer we get to an ask, the more important it is to get out of the mind and down into the heart.
Yep.
That's what the video is supposed to do.
I 100% agree.
Right?
My thing is like, you want the video to fade and a tear to be rolling down the side of their face. And then you get up there, whoever's doing their auction, whoever's doing the ask, be like, if you think this is worth investing in, get your checkbook out, take your wallet out, let's, and just add a zero to whatever you were thinking about doing today,
right.
and
yes.
and if they're crying, if you have them, you can show them the impact and make it emotional, move them emotionally, they will give more than they had planned to when they came in. And that's the goal of my videos every time. So my problem, the issue I see a lot with nonprofits is they want to make a video for the head. Hey, let's make a video talking about stat. I'm like, that's
what we do as
yeah,
an
and
overview.
or I just did one when they wanted to have 5 people interview 5 different people, and I'm like, you're not going to get to the heart of what you guys do if we're trying to make a 4, 5, 6 minute video and we're trying to tell 5 stories. That only gives you 1 minute per story.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're not going to be able to get to the heart of the mission and talk about how you guys are actually impacting people in the community or whatever it is you're doing. We need to pick one story. Pick your best story.
Yep.
And let's sink our teeth into that and tell that as emotionally as possible. And, just highlight, here's the impact, but times this by 100 because we're impacting 100 different people and they're impacting 100 different people. But you only need to tell one story to kind of highlight what it is you do and make it as
And you've really
heartfelt.
helped me see that too. That you really only need to do one story. And because you probably already know this concept, it's like the idea of transportation. Storytelling creates transportation. And when you can transport into somebody's experience, it actually increases the oxytocin levels in your body, which is going to also increase a feeling of trust and love and connection and belonging. And that's absolutely critical before we ask for money. Not necessarily the live auction. The live auction's like a different kind of feeling.
Yeah.
But the paddle raiser, when we're directly asking you just to donate money, we have to put them in that state. But it's not just sometimes some of my clients are like, oh, we manipulate them. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you're a nonprofit. You should use the best of sales and marketing we can find to do all this. But secondly, it's actually a gift to these adults that have come in the door with their heads full and their hearts heavy. To allow them to just kind of connect and get into the moment and really feel their why. And because I always joke on stage that there's no such thing as donor's remorse.
They're going to give something. They know what they're walking into, right? show them what you do and how you're really, if you're making a difference in the world,
Yes.
you're making a difference in people's lives, show them that.
And it's your Super Bowl.
It's your Super Bowl.
Bring
like,
it.
Bring it. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Do the best that you can. And, and you will get the best return on your investment.
You'll get the best return.
And then you'll be able to go and make a more difference in the community and more difference. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just rinse and repeat that. And I 100%
So to
agree
your
with
question,
you. It's
the
an investment.
impact of not doing this is you don't get people there. And
Yeah.
they're still in their minds, and they're starting to think about your video, the misspelling they saw, or the blurry clip art,
Or the bad audio. Yeah.
or the bad audio.
The bad audio
and
is the one.
I don't think videos need to be perfect. I mean,
They need
your
to be
production
professional.
quality is really, really good.
Sure.
I think the story is most critical.
Mm-hmm.
And the length of it, we don't want them to be too long either.
Yeah.
But as you know, like a 3-minute video can feel like 8, and then the opposite is true.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a huge impact if we don't bring it with the mission moment video. So, I'm working with a client in March that they're a little bit behind on their planning, and I'm going on maternity leave in January. So I'm like, hey, let's get some meetings on the calendar. And, one of the things I can do is kind of help you triage what is most important for us to work on. And one of them always is the mission moment video.
It takes longer than people realize. It's about a 2-month process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
At least. I mean, if we can have 3 months, it's better. But sometimes it's hard. It's nice having a hard date because you just have to make decisions and move forward.
Yeah.
So and that is nice. But if you wait until the last minute, it's going to take away from what we're able to do for our
that makes
clients.
sense.
We're not going to be able to think through things and plan things and find the right story. They spent, the last client we worked on together, they spent probably 6 weeks just finding the perfect story. I think they interviewed 5 or 6 different people, and we finally settled. They kind of pitched their final 2 or 3 to me, and I kind of was like, well, I think this is the one.
Yeah.
And that was the one we went with, and it was a great
Was that
story.
our client?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was such a great story.
Yeah.
It was really good. I mean, the room
The fact
felt
that
it.
she cried in the video,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I was like, I don't want to force people. I don't want to force that. But I think that's how you know that you're making an impact too. Is like the person that is telling their story is getting emotional telling their story.
Yes.
The audience is also going to feel that, and they're going to get emotional about
Yeah.
it.
I mean, not to plug you again, but I always say the interview is more important than the interviewee. You've got to get somebody who knows how to ask the right questions and pull out those emotions, right? And that's not a skill I have necessarily. I just know that it is a skill.
Well, I'm a storyteller, you know what I mean? And that's what I enjoy doing. And I can tell those stories through video. And, and I'm really careful to try not to manipulate people. But at the same time, I know how to put together a story. And so I will say things like, that was beautiful. Can you say that again? Maybe say it a little more concise, less words, and then they'll they're jumping around. They've never been on screen. They're not actors, right? And so I will give them sort of transition sentence. I'm like, that was great. I love these 2 ideas that you just talked about. I'm going to put those in the video, but I need some way to transition between those. And, can you maybe start off say that, but like start off saying it like this,
Yeah.
and give them these like transition sentences to help me. So, cause I know in my head the video before we even start filming,
Right.
You know what I mean? I've interviewed the person, I've talked to them, I've talked to the nonprofit. I know what the video is going to look like almost always in my head before we even start filming.
Right.
I just have to extract everything I need, you know what I mean? And and it's usually not 100%, but it's 90% of what I thought it was going to be usually. And then just put it together in post, which doesn't take too much time. So
Such a skill, a skill you need to hire for.
yeah, I mean, it's just, I've been doing this for like 12 years now. So
Yeah.
it's just like you
Yeah.
could just tomorrow, if I just threw you on stage at an event, you probably would do just fine. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Obviously you want prep and stuff, but you could get up there and just wing it, and you've done 300 things,
Yeah.
right? I've done 300 videos, so I can do the same
And I
thing.
love to wing things. It's just a personality thing too.
Sure, me
Like,
too.
I don't
There's
mind
an
it. I
element.
love it.
And in some ways, that's like when your most creative work comes
Yeah.
out, right? When you're
Yeah.
not, when you didn't plan it, and you just have to figure it out on the fly. So
And you're just focused on the people.
Yeah.
You're not even focused on yourself.
Yep.
And you're just like, okay, how can we do this and pull this off for you? The magic always comes out.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I tell, it's different because we shoot weddings too, and weddings there's almost zero pre-production. You just show up, you film what happens, and then you put it together in post. Whereas with nonprofit videos, commercial work, most of the work, 70% of the work is done in pre-production. You're thinking through your shot list, you're writing down all the shots, all the locations, figuring out exactly what the goal of the video is, and then just reverse engineering that. Then you get to on set. You're just shooting what you've already decided you're going to shoot.
Right.
You shoot it, and then in the post-production, you're just putting together what you've already done, the work you've already done, and the video. So, you have to have the video idea first and exactly kind of what it's going to look like. It's never 100%, but, you can get it pretty close, if you, location scout, screen who you're interviewing, who you're talking to, know what you're going to film, what it's going to look like. You can get it really close.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, Dani, tell me about, let's talk a little about your personal life. Where'd you grow up? We're going to kind of go back and figure out kind of how you became, because also I need to say this, you are not a traditional auctioneer. People probably need to know that.
Right.
You're not like the, you kind of get up there and you riff, you tell a lot of jokes. It's very casual. You don't talk fast like a traditional auctioneer.
Right.
You talk fast. You're a fast talker.
Yes.
Me too. But not like in a traditional auctioneer. So, why is that? Why is that your thing? And why didn't you go the route of like a traditional auctioneer?
Yeah. So I thought it was random getting into my auctioneer career, but looking back on my life, it's not random at all. I was, that person who was always picked to be the MC for something, or, when I was a college athlete and we needed somebody to speak on behalf of the team, I was like, Dani, go do it.
Okay.
And also when I was like 10, I was the oldest cousin on my mom's side, one of the oldest. And for some reason, I always thought I needed to MC our family reunions.
No kid ever thinks that, but
nobody gave me that idea.
Yeah.
I would impersonate Elvis and like MC a family reunion. And I just thought it was like important that we had an MC.
Yeah, of course.
And
you saw the gap, you saw the need.
Yeah,
You're
I saw
nobody's
the need.
MCing, nobody's leading this thing.
Yeah, it's like someone needs to make announcements here.
I'm only 11, but I'll get up there. And just
I'm
MC
10 and I look like I'm 5. Let's do this thing. And so I always kind of had that personality.
Okay.
And it's not this like center of attention thing. It's like feeling like a message, some information needs to be shared, because I'm not an actor or an actress. I don't have those skills. I'm not somebody who can like perform. I'm somebody who sees information that needs to get communicated or something that needs to get done, and I step up to do it. It's just kind of my personality that I've always had. Yeah. And so in my 20s, I was also one of those people that had like 75 side hustles. I just thought it was fun to make money and meet people and serve people.
I think you and I might be the same person.
Yeah, no, we are similar. And I've seen your irises. Yeah. We are similar. But I just always like to be out and about. And one of the jobs was to implement the mobile bidding at these nonprofit events and do the check-in and the checkout. So I started doing a ton of those, and then I started managing them, and then I became the preferred manager for the company, and they flew me all over the country to manage them. And in a really short period of time, I got about 150 events under my belt, because I also started working internally with the company, consulting on how to set up these silent auction mobile bidding websites and the best practices and the timelines. And I really quickly got this saturation of galas, or just raising a lot of money in one night. Did anybody teach you that stuff,
or did you just figure it out as you went?
I just figured it out as I went.
And you just trial and error. You had so many reps in such a short amount of time that you just learned it really quick.
Yep, exactly. Okay. And then in 2015, one of the auctioneers I had worked with about a dozen times was Reggie Rivers. He's a former Denver Bronco.
I've been to his events before.
Big auctioneer here in Denver. He's awesome. But I actually asked him to coffee for something totally unrelated. And we went to coffee together. And after about 3 hours of just hanging out and hitting it off, he was like, I've had my eye on you. I always thought you'd make a really good auctioneer. You're really cool under pressure. You're decisive and you're funny. Do you want to try it out? And I was like, yeah, let's do this. It fit totally with the person who wants to be in charge of getting stuff done and sharing information, right? Yeah. And so
seems like the natural evolution for you.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it at the time. It seemed random, but looking back, it's clearly the natural evolution, right? And so he brought me on board and trained me in his style. And I was like, and by the way, I have this quirky knowledge base now of these fundraising logistics. And so together we created a consulting department based on what he had figured out and what I had figured out. And so just having him train me and bring me under his belt, I didn't go to auction school. So I didn't go to liquidation auction
There's an
school.
actual awkward. There's an.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
and
there was
there's
a school.
in a lot of states you have to be licensed to do a
Okay.
benefit auction, and you just don't have to in Colorado.
Okay. So you can't go to certain states and do.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I'd have to have like a workaround with it where they just donated money to a charitable giving fund or something like that, but I couldn't receive money.
Okay, so you could go do it, but you couldn't get paid
Yes.
directly through it. Okay.
And because being a liquidation auctioneer is obviously it's the same sort of job, but it's a different skill set
Yeah.
because you are trying to liquidate a large amount of inventory in a
Gotta
short
get through
amount of
stuff.
time.
It's part of the reason they talk fast, right?
Yeah, because they're auction chant, that's what it's called. It actually has a lot of professional cues for professional ears
Okay.
in it. So that's part of why I don't auction chant. I just never even went to liquidation school.
Okay.
I've thought about going to it because I know I would learn some things. But you know, I'm busy, so I'm not just gonna go to school to learn
Right.
something that I'm not gonna do. I'll never liquidate
Right, and you're-
storage units and cars.
You're
and-
wildly successful without it, so yeah.
Yeah,
I never went to
so-
film school, right? So
And so
probably would learn a
Reggie's-
few things doing it, but
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so Reggie's style always was more fun and casual, and like we were always kind of aligned in this thing where we're not performers. We show up really prepared with the information, but then we just really like to get in the moment
Yeah.
and play with people.
yeah.
We just love to
That's
play
exactly
with people.
how I would describe what you do. Just riffing. You're kind of like a comedian doing crowd work. You know?
Total wannabe comedian. And so, side note, I was the class clown in high school by like a landslide. Because in my best, most relaxed form, I am constantly thinking about things I think are funny to say to somebody. Like when I'm feeling really good and I'm relaxed and I'm happy, those are the thoughts that go through my brain, is how to make the person in front of me laugh. It just is how it is. So yeah, that is more my style. That's why I don't fit into some stuffy black tie events. You know,
Do you ever turn down events?
yeah.
Okay. And you just don't think you're a good fit, things like that.
Yeah, but I mostly will turn them down after I've asked a ton of questions
Yep.
and found out that the way they set up their logistics is just going to make everybody look bad. I had actually a really, really big, well-known client in Colorado who I turned down because after talking through it, I kind of said to them, I'm like, you might as well hire your previous auctioneer because the way you set things up, you're not going to be happy with me either. And then I had a client in the
And they
fall.
weren't willing to like change.
No, and I even said, if you want to have a free strategy call and I can let you know why I think this,
Yeah.
I'm happy to. But they just came back to me and said, we hired someone else. And, at the end of the day, if I don't turn something down like that, it's just bad for my reputation because it makes me look bad.
And it's just, if it doesn't fit you, I find that it's like you're going to be frustrated. It's going to take way longer. It's going to take away from your other clients that you enjoy working with. It's just negative for everyone.
Exactly.
So if you're not a good fit for a project, it's like it's enticing because of the money, right?
Yes.
You're like, and you have this like, so I talk a lot about a scarcity mindset, and if you have a scarcity mindset, you're afraid of where that next paycheck's going to come from. You'll say yes to everything. So like I tell people, I'm like, yeah, you got to build up like a 6-month runway in your business, like financially, so that you can say no.
Right.
And it seems like counterintuitive a little bit, but if you have a little bit of financial security, you can say no to projects. And when you say no to projects, it raises people's eyebrows. They're like, whoa, okay. Why would you not want this business? You're just like, well, because I don't think you guys are going to be successful with this model, or you know what I
Yeah.
mean? This idea is a bad idea, or the way that you guys approached me was not a healthy way, and I don't want to deal with that. So, and then you can go, and then inevitably, when I say no to a project, an amazing project comes up
Every time.
the next week. You know what I mean? Or the next day, or just like within a short time frame, the perfect project comes up, and you're like, oh wow, I would have had to say no to this one because I said that. You know what I mean? Even if it's less money, or you know what I mean? Sometimes it's whatever. It's just, I feel like if you have a scarcity mindset and you're operating out of that, you say yes to everything, you're going to get burned out so fast. Your reputation's going to go in the toilet. Like, it's going to be a terrible experience. So the best thing you can do as like a business owner, entrepreneur, build a runway, financial runway so that you feel confident and comfortable saying no to a project. If you can do that, you're in a great position.
100%.
So I'm
I didn't
with
do
you.
that in the early years of business. I pretty much
No one
said
does.
yes to everything,
Yeah,
right?
you have to, and you got to grind it out.
But you have to learn that way.
You got to learn what a bad project is. You don't know until you experience it, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have this this sixth sense now where I can tell if an event is going to go really well or not. Like I can tell it in the days leading up to it.
Is it working with the certain people? Is it just the people you work with mostly?
It's not that. It's like I can feel it in my bones. Like I can feel a certain level of.
What is it that gives you that feeling? Like what are the things that you're seeing and feel and experiencing?
You know, I can never find out till I get to the event.
Okay.
But typically,
It's
something's gonna happen. Like if I have this like low energy feeling about it, I'm like, okay, you know, this isn't gonna go as well as I thought. I'll get there. I'll find out. Oh, well, we had a bunch of people cancel at the last minute, or you know, we had this big donor that didn't come through, or you know, our video didn't turn out well. You know, you'll find out that some of these core things that need to be in place aren't in place. Or something crazy will happen with the sound system. I've had an entire transformer just blow right before I was supposed to go on there, which it was pretty magical because I had to use my regular voice to like 250 people, but they were all quiet during it.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, which was pretty magical.
That's like that's nice and intimate. You don't get that experience very often.
Yeah, and mistakes like that don't mean you're going to have a bad event. And a lot of times it means things are going to go well because perfection is not required.
Right.
It's not a requirement at all. It's connection. Connection's the requirement. That's the absolute requirement.
I want to talk about that too, because something that you do that I've never seen before with other auctioneers is you go out and you talk with the guest beforehand, during, before and after. You're engaging with the guest and the donors there a lot. I've never, because we shot a video, just full disclosure, we shot a video for Dani, and
my new auctioneer video.
we took a lot of the footage that you already had, and like a lot of the footage is you just like talking with people and engaging with people, the guests and stuff. Where does that come from? Where did you learn that? Why do you do that?
Yeah, so I think partially Reggie taught me to do it because since he is a celebrity and a public person, everybody wanted to, he was a highlight of the event, right? So he kind of taught me that.
So he was out there taking selfies with people and talking and smoozing it up. Okay.
Exactly. But I think I would have come to that conclusion on my own anyway, because first of all, it's just kind of my personality type. I like to meet
the other option
people.
is to like sit in like a green room by yourself,
and a lot of them do
right?
that, or they show up right before the live auction. But those are your performers.
Yeah.
They're people who have to have a feathered nest a little bit. They have a certain way of doing things. They repeat the same jokes over and over. But for me, if I can meet a lot of people in the cocktail hour, I do a few things. So I like to ask how you're connected, because then I hear these cool ways that you're connected. And so then I'm on stage and I can be like, oh, and then, I found out that Kelly over here, such and such, that she came here because her brother this or that. The other thing is I learn a lot of names. So I'll learn your name, and I'm not the type of person who says, I forget names. I'm the type of person that's like, oh, I remember names, so I remember them. And when I learn your names, I'm on stage and you raise your paddle, and I'm like, oh, there's Steve raising his paddle again.
That's impressive, yeah.
And they like it.
So are you mingling, trying to remember as many names as possible? Is that one of the goals?
That's a goal.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to learn as many names as possible, but I'm trying to make sure I retain the information
The ones
I'm
that
learning.
you do meet, yeah.
And then if I have to introduce somebody on stage, like an executive director, a board member, I like to learn something real about them. So I'll ask other board members or other staff members,
Is it usually something funny? Try to
I like
do
to
a little
find
humor.
something funny, but I also like to find something unexpected, because people have unexpected information. So I'll ask them, for example, I was introducing an executive director who's really focused and really, really serious and really gets the job done. And I was asking the people that work for her, I'm like, what is one of the biggest things you learned about leadership when she came on board? What is one of the biggest changes she made?
Oh, that's cool.
And I got like really cool responses about how she went around to every single person in the organization and took them out to coffee and picked their brain about what was working and what wasn't working. And they all felt really valued. And then I also learned something really funny about how when she met Joe Biden, she said his hands were like the softest hands she'd ever touched before. So when I introduced her, it was more than just her role, how long she'd been there. I said those other things, and those give everybody in the audience a connection point to her. And so later, somebody can come up to her and be like, oh my gosh, I met Joe Biden too. His hands are super soft, or whatever. I just believe the more we can connect everybody and the more we can feel like we're part of a community, it just strengthens everybody's experience, not only that night, but moving forward. And this is how we meet each other. And, you know, I remember I used to go to this coffee shop in Denver that's been closed down for years, but it was an awesome coffee shop. And I remember, I don't know how this came up in conversation, but the owner told me that one of his strategies is that his employees introduce everybody to each other. So if I'm waiting in line behind you, they'd be like, oh, you know, have you two met yet? Did you know that he makes videos? Did you know that she does this? And then you and I would start to talk. And then all of a sudden we'd have a connection. And then we'd be like, well, hey, we should do some business together. And then all of a sudden we have this link that is like ours. And when you do that enough times, everybody in the community is linked up and you have a solid, strong community that now feels like they're part of it. So to me, it's like there's so many layers to connecting with people and what I'm doing in the cocktail hour. And, you know, just to add to this, I think part of my style is making people in the audience feel so comfortable that we're going to kind of co-create this thing together. So as soon as I remember your name and then I call you out in the audience, like, you know, for example, I was at a school event once, and there was a man named Andy, and we were riffing a little bit. I had met him in the cocktail hour. He like had become my buddy. And so we're on stage and I'm asking for a $10,000 donation. And he raises his paddle and he goes, I'm going to do 12. And I was like, are you just Andying this right now? And then we turned Andying it into a verb. And then like 6 people in the audience wanted to Andy their own donation. Funny. And we probably made like an extra $10,000 by people saying their own sum larger than what I was asking for. Okay. And that type of interaction and co-creation doesn't happen if they feel a separation from you on stage. Yeah. If they, you know, and if you're trying too hard to perform, you're very focused on yourself. And when you're really focused on yourself, you just can't connect with other people. Yeah. And so on the flip side, sometimes I say the most ridiculous things. You know,
you're gonna have some misses.
So many misses,
for sure.
You know,
I mean, you're a stand-up comedian, basically. Like, you know,
yes, lots of misses.
Yeah, you're workshopping things. You're like, yeah, that worked. You know,
yes, lots of
all right, that didn't work.
Shopping.
I'll not do that one again, or maybe I'll try to punch it up and do it a little different next time.
100%.
And different jokes are with different crowds.
Different jokes with different crowds. And so I don't tend to fit well in your really stuffy environments where the planners want you to say things a specific way. I just had a client like that, and the numbers were unreal. Like, objectively speaking, our numbers were unreal. People overall said that they really liked me. They really enjoyed it. But they weren't happy with me because I didn't say a few things they wanted me to say.
Like what?
Well, not to get into it too deeply, but
what was the gist of what you did say?
So once you get to a paddle raiser and you're saying raise your paddle for 10,000, 5,000, 2,500, it can be helpful if the donors in the room have a tangible idea of where that amount of money is going to go. You know, $10,000 buys us a new school bus.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know, whatever. I'm of the mind that we kind of already talked about it previously. You fill the mind earlier in the program.
The stats.
You move into the heart. After the heart part, the heart's connected to the hands. It's kind of on the same plane. And that's where I come in, to get you to raise hands. I believe that the more I just get you excited about taking action, and the more I make goals, collective goals, like I need 10 of you, I need 5 of you. Hey, we've raised this much, we've raised this much. That, I believe, is my job, to get the momentum rolling and get you excited. If I need to continue to explain or sell your mission, we didn't do the program correctly. Now, they wanted me to stop at every level and say tangibly what the money would go to. I thought I communicated clearly to them that I don't do that because it slows down momentum, and that doesn't make sense, and I don't want to fill their brains more. Yeah. But they thought they had clearly told me to do that. So it ended up as sort of like a agree to disagree. Maybe someone else is a better fit for you, because I really believe we would have left some money on the table had I done it your way. And the numbers are showing we're doing better than we've ever done before.
Yeah.
So something
Plus, if you give it
works.
like a tangible thing, like a school bus, it's like, all right, well, now we're kind of capping, because like we don't need 20 new school buses, but we need
Yeah.
20 people to raise their paddle at this
Which
mark.
it works when you have one impact anchor. That's what I call it. You want to have one. So you want to have you want to know what $1,000 can do. Like $1,000 can serve 4 veterans, so that, once we've raised $10,000, I'm like, that was 40.
Yeah.
We just served 40, because that gets people excited.
Yeah.
But you don't want to give them more information, because you're saying, oh, $10,000 to buy a school bus. Well, you got someone sitting there going, well, if I got a used school bus and I souped it up, it really only cost us $5,600. You don't want people thinking. You
okay.
want them acting.
Gotcha.
And so we want to get them excited about the contribution they're making. And really, you want everybody to feel like a team in the room.
You feel like that brings people back to the head.
Exactly.
And you don't want that.
And I don't
now
want
they're counting
that.
how many school buses
Yes.
we got. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And so, that's one of those things that there's someone who's a better fit for them, who's going to say it the way they want to say it, who isn't going to be so like, no, sorry, I won't do that.
So
but
even though
we
you
all
got
have
the
that
better
personality.
results, even though you got better results than they were hoping for, they didn't agree with you. They still wanted to do that. Okay.
Yeah. And the way
So
I
you
see
showed
it,
them that the ways were maybe not the best way, the best approach, and they still.
but they don't see it that way. Part of the problem is because they have an event planner in charge of everything, a defensive player
Yeah.
who runs a tight ship in an amazing event.
Yeah.
But we got to think offensively with stuff like that, and which means
That seems like one of those nuanced things that you could go either way, and you just test it out. A/B test it. This year we'll do it this way. Next year we won't.
Yeah.
Let's see which one gets better results, and we'll go with that. But they didn't
yeah,
want. They didn't
yeah,
want to do
and
that.
and that's a way of doing it. But also, kind of back to what we were talking about earlier. You want to trust the professional, and I'm the one who's done over 300 of these. I always say in my Super Bowl analogy, I'm a quarterback. I'm not the head coach. I don't make the decisions, but I played in so many games. That's what I was saying the other day to a client. In Super Bowl 75, which never happened, but it's like I've played in so many
will.
games that I'm here to tell you, it will happen, that this is what I have seen work. And you don't have to listen to me, but also if you don't listen to me and you want me to do it a certain way, we're probably not going to work together again next year, because it's better to have a synergy,
Yeah.
right? Where we're like on the same page. And I'd rather work with clients who want to make as much money as possible. And, frankly, it's like in the same analogy with the Super Bowl, your quarterback, once they're out there, you can't control them. You need to trust your quarterback that they're going to execute the plays the way you want them to.
Sure.
So we just have to be the right fit for each event. And so, I'm not pursuing rebooking that event. I'm not sure they're going to pursue rebooking me, which is a good thing. Sure. They need to find somebody who will make them feel more comfortable with how they have it set up, because at the end of the day, most good auctioneers are a little bit disagreeable, because we have to have that type of
Well, what works
strong
for you.
personality,
And you
to
know
be
what
up
works
there.
for you, right?
Yeah.
Like they know their nonprofit the best. That's what I'm like, look, you know your nonprofit better than I do. But I know video. I know story. I know how to tell a story better. So like you got to trust me with this part. And then at
Yes.
some point, if it, is misaligned with your mission and your goals and what your nonprofit is doing, let's have that conversation.
Right.
But I need you to trust me with a lot of these things and just
Yes.
let me know. And ultimately, like the project we worked on together for the nonprofit, they made a lot of suggestions. They had a lot of feedback, probably too many cooks in the kitchen giving feedback. I try and say, hey, let's keep it to like 2 people, maybe 3 max. They had like 5 people, 6 people giving feedback on these videos. It was just too much. But ultimately, the saving grace was my point person came to me and she was like, hey, these are suggestions. I trust you. Like you have earned my trust at this point. If you think it's going to take away from the story, or you don't think it's a good idea, you think it's going to add too much length, it's not worth it, then ignore that feedback. And she gave me kind of the final say, and that was super helpful. I was able to like yes, 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 I can do all these things. That's fine. And then I said, no, no, no on a couple of things. And it made the video better. You know what I mean? And we kind of collaborated. So it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, she
for
did
sure.
that with me too.
Yeah, she was
and
great.
and it's good. It's not that you don't want their feedback and their ideas. You want them. You don't want them to not say them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, let's
Trust me.
trust me, and also trust me enough that I hear what you're saying and I'm going to communicate what you want me to do, but I've got a certain way of doing it.
Sometimes I would try it. I'm like, all right, let's put this clip in there and see if it works. You don't have that luxury because you get one shot at it, right?
Yeah.
I can throw it in there and they go, you're right, that didn't work. I'm like, told you so, or it's like, that actually works sometimes, and we'll go with it. So it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of overlap. The Venn diagram for what we're doing for nonprofits is pretty big, but you only get one shot at it. I can edit.
But at least a lot of what I do is forgotten, right? Because
That's
mine's
true.
live.
It doesn't live on.
It doesn't necessarily live on.
Right.
And some of my vulnerability hangovers, I've had to remind myself of that. Like, you know what, Danny? People can't remember everything you say up there.
No.
So don't even worry about
No,
it. You
like
said
I said,
this
you're gonna
dumb
have some,
thing
you're
and
gonna
this
have some
dumb
misses.
thing.
You're gonna have some jokes, and
Yeah.
one person might laugh. And I think we had that in a video of yours. It was like you said it rhymes with. I forget.
yeah.
And anyways, and like one person laughed. You're like, that's all I needed to keep going.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
just needed you to laugh
I just
at
needed
me.
one person to get the joke.
Yeah.
One person
No.
has my sense of humor.
I know. I always
that
joke
works.
that like I could totally do stand up now
Probably
because I
should.
have no fear
Yeah.
of
People-
missing because I've been missing for years. Because when I started doing this, I was 28. And he recruited me to do it, and he just kind of threw me on stage and sent videographers. I never even had somebody there watching me.
And he would just watch the video. Back.
And we watched 3 events in a row. Like, he was my coach and we were watching film, and I basically had my head in my sweatshirt the entire time because I was just cringing.
Yeah.
Because I was 28 and I didn't have really any public speaking experience except for, my self-selected emceeing. And
the
stuff
family
like
reunion,
that.
yeah.
But I wasn't like on the debate team or anything. I should have totally been on the debate team. But so when I kind of got started with that, I just had to roll with it, and I was cringing a lot because I was young and I didn't understand the point yet of not focusing on yourself. So it made my nerves even worse. It made me magnify on my mistakes even more. It finally clicked for me like 3 years later that this has nothing to do with me.
Did you feel that moment when you just go, "Oh, I'm so comfortable in this now. I got this." Did you feel it? Like, was it one event, or was it just like, oh, you kind of look back, you're like, "Oh man, I kind of crushed those last few events, and I wasn't nervous."
So it was the mindset shift that it's not about me, and the way it happened is pretty silly. So I always used to paint my nails on the way to events, which I know it sounds crazy, but like I'd get my car all ready to go, get my music going, my drink, my seatbelt on, and then I'd take some nail polish.
Hyping yourself up.
And I'd put it on my nails, and then I'd start driving with my hands out the window. Then I'd pull over like 15 minutes later somewhere, and I'd put my second coat on, and I'd put my hands out the window and start driving to the event. And it was this thing I did. And once I went to go put my hand out my sunroof, but my sunroof was closed.
Oh.
So when I did that, I just destroyed all the nail polish on my right hand. Like, it looked like a little kid had done my nails and then pushed on everything. It was horrible, and I didn't have enough time to like fix it. Uh-huh. And so I just remember just thinking like, oh my gosh, you don't look put together, blah, 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 blah. And I was concerned about it because I still thought that I needed to be a level of
You thought it was about
really
you.
well polished because I thought it was about me. And I just remember that event just going really well. And nobody saying anything about my nails, and nobody cared. And I really did kind of have a moment there where it clicked for me that I was like, wait a minute, Dani, this has nothing to do with you. I would have come to this conclusion way sooner had I had a mentor who helped me understand that, because this isn't some novel concept in like the public speaking world. It's like about shifting the spotlight off yourself and onto them. My friend always says that. But the second I was able to start shifting the spotlight off, and like I would go to an event and I would start having really bad nerves. Like, I'm 30, I'm 31 at this point or whatever. And I'm working on my own now too, because I'm not working in Reggie's company anymore. And I would start to get nervous. I would just take a deep breath and, hey, this isn't about you. Show up with good energy. You're as prepared as you can be. Focus on the job and focus on making them feel good. It took a little while for that to really settle into my bones. But from that point forward, every event got better because I could connect with people more because I wasn't thinking about myself as much and I wasn't worried about it as much.
Yep.
So it was like I actually did have the epiphany very clearly that day with the nails mishap. But it took a little while for it to get into my bones and become who I am. And so now I'll get a little nerves here and there, which to me I think is a good thing. You know, as I told you, I was a college athlete. And if I didn't have nerves, I wasn't present in the game. I'd never played well. So I know that nerves to a certain degree mean that you're checked into the moment and you're aware that you're about to stand in front of hundreds of people like a prey in the wild. I mean, it is what it is. So I still get like a little bit of nerves, which I think is a good
healthy,
thing.
yeah.
It's healthy. But now I don't worry. I don't worry about myself anymore.
I read this this quote, and it said this guy was talking about himself, and he said, I think it was Ewan McGregor. He said, "In my teens and 20s, I worried a lot about what people thought about me, and then in my 30s, I realized people don't really think about me." And then when you get to that moment, you realize people aren't really thinking about you too much. I feel like you do your best work, but you also just kind of become who you are.
Yeah.
And you just like settle into, this is who I am. I'm kind of comfortable with who I am. I like who I am.
Yep.
People aren't really thinking about me. You don't have to like, there's like part of your brain that's just like taken over by stressing about what other people are thinking about you.
Yes.
And then you realize people don't really think about you. You know what I mean? Or if they do, who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, well, why? You're not thinking about them, right?
And you realize they're probably thinking about themselves anyway.
And absolutely. Everyone's just
Yeah.
thinking about themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and just at the same time, I started getting a lot of people coming up to me after events, complimenting me. A lot of
That
people
affirmation
asking
is
me
huge.
if how I am confident up there. You know, how I'm confident enough to be up there, and that's how I knew we have a switch in energy here, where you don't feel my nerves anymore, and you see it even with stand-up comedians sometimes too. Like if they're really nervous,
Yeah.
nothing is as funny that they say because you start to have secondhand embarrassment and like you start to feel their nerves, right? So you it's important that we have to drop all that in order to make other people feel comfortable too. Because again, it's not about us, you know. But I find that because you know, so many people have asked me for tips, public speaking tips, or how I'm confident up there. I tell them just this one thing every single time. I'm like, you have to shift the spotlight. It is not about you. Keep practicing that over and over. Whether, you know, I've had people in law school say, I'm really nervous actually to get up there in court. What should I do? Focus on your case and focus on your clients. Stop thinking about yourself.
Yeah, it's
Stop
not about
thinking
you.
about being smart or cool or
sounding a
good
certain
looking
way,
or
yeah.
funny. You know, don't think about that. Think about them. And it just frees up so much energy. And that's why we have so much fun at, you know, my events, is because I'm clearly focused on you. And, you know, like a comedian, you raise your hand, you heckle me a bit. Oh, you're now part of this.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
coming after you now.
Now
Yeah.
let's have some fun.
Yeah.
You know, how can we all be part of this? You know, I'm always trying to start a group chant.
At events, you're trying to start a group
Oh yeah,
chat.
like if I need like 2 more paddles up, I'll be like two more.
That's
Half the time nobody joins me, which is hilarious.
That's great. That's even better.
Half the time
Yeah.
they do join
Yeah,
me,
you just
which
keep
is
going.
hilarious.
I would double down. If no one joins me, I'm doubling down on
And then
that.
if nobody raises their paddle, I'll go, ooh. Well, that didn't work, y'all. You know, and we just laugh and we think it's so much fun, you
That's
know.
great.
But, you know, that is my style.
The confidence that you have to have in yourself and your ability to do that is huge.
Yeah.
That's good. That's impressive. To go, I'm going to just go for this.
Yeah.
And you're doing it for the nonprofit, right? And it's like, I had a question that I want to ask. Do you always believe in the mission of the nonprofits you're working for? Is that a requirement? Or are there some that you're like, meh?
You know,
Because it's
first
hard.
of all, yes, I do believe in the missions. For me, what ends up happening is I get close with my clients, and I believe in my clients. I work with the problem solvers of the world.
Yeah.
And I admire them so much because they can do things I can't do. I'm really confident, I'm really bold, I'm really strong, but I'm very sensitive. So some of the stuff they do on the front lines, some of the I mean, I hear a lot of the stories and I have to like process them when I get home because it like hurts, you know, you've got stuff involving children, you've got stuff involving animal welfare. I mean, this stuff is upsetting.
Right.
It's really, really
They
upsetting.
exist for a reason, right?
And they
Nonprofits exist
yes.
because someone saw a problem in the world that wasn't being solved by the private industry or government, and they said, well, somebody needs to do something, and
Somebody
they're
needs to
looking
do
around
something.
and no one's doing anything about the problem.
Yeah.
As they go, I guess I'll do something about it.
Yeah.
So they have to go and raise money and start a nonprofit
Right.
and take action, right?
And it's so admirable what
It
they
is,
do.
yeah.
And their personalities are so amazing because they're coming in and they're like,
Because they're not in the nonprofit for money.
they're not in it.
No one works in a
gala,
nonprofit for the money.
Planning a gala is a huge undertaking. I mean, I think they say a first-time wedding takes like 550 hours of planning. A gala is going to take more than that because you have fundraising logistics to deal with as well. So for them to care about what they're doing so much, and a lot of them are defensive-minded folks too.
Naturally, right?
Naturally, and for them to care so much about what they're doing that they're willing to undertake the daunting task of planning a gala, they're just so cool to me. And so I developed that relationship with my client, and all I want to do is help you be successful and make you look good. And so a lot of times I actually even forget that I have an impact on the mission. And it's interesting because I've had some people come up to me, like I've had clients for 7, 8, 9 years, and I've had some people come up to me like, hey, Dani, you know that extra money you helped us raise last year? Well, my daughter got a scholarship for X, Y, and Z. And I'm like standing there and I'm like, oh, wow, I helped with that? Because I don't even really even think about that part of it. I just think about my clients and serving them and making them feel really good. But I will say there's a couple causes that I'll turn down because I don't agree. Or there's like the domestic violence stuff actually makes me really, really, really uncomfortable. You know, there's reasons why, but it just also is what it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't think I can do that. For the most part, I can do just about any event. You know, there's some religions that I'm not the same religion, but these are such great people doing great things, you know. So some have come up. There's some that have come up where I'm like, ooh, nope, I can't touch that with a 10-foot pole. There's no way. Everybody in the room will be able to smell I'm an imposter there too.
That's the problem is you have to fake it. I mean, I can't fake it. I don't know about you. I think we're a lot of like,
No.
I can't fake it. If I don't like something, if I'm not on board with it, I can't even pretend to like it.
No, I
and
can't
you
at all.
You will feel it and see it immediately.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
bad.
I can't act at all. I did a lot of commercial and lifestyle modeling in my 20s where like I basically was just at a coffee shop laughing and you were taking pictures for an apartment complex down the road. I mean, like I did a ton of those. Well, then they tried to get me cast in like some commercials or some other things where I had to act. And I just couldn't do it.
That's
and
funny.
I'm like, I don't know why. I just
can
have
act,
to be so
I just
honest.
don't want to. It's like
Yeah.
I want them to know that I don't like whatever it is that they're going for. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I just can't fake it.
I mean, I'm a little bit of a pain
There's
like
a difference
that.
between acting and faking, I feel like, because I'm just like a very authentic. I try to be a very authentic
Yeah.
person, and like I feel like acting. If everyone knows you're acting, then that's fine. But if I am acting and I'm the only one that knows that I'm acting, it's inauthentic. You know?
yeah.
And I just can't. I can't do
No,
it.
I agree.
Let's wrap this up. I want to hear about sort of what's on the horizon because you have a lot of things that you're working on right now. Can you tell us about some of those?
Yeah, well, I'm working on producing this child.
That's the biggest one, the most important one.
That's the biggest one, and just enjoying my time with my small family. And I really like babies, and I really like being a mom. So
It's going to be a really sweet next like 4 or 5 months for you guys.
yeah, I'm really excited. With my son, I was just straight terrified to become a mom, and now I'm just really excited to bring another human in the world.
You know, I take this for what it is. I have 3 kids. And I was worried. I was like, well, how am I going to love my next child as much as I love my first?
Oh my gosh, I've thought of that. Yes, continue.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, you will. You'll love them just as much. But that person, the youngest the baby, will also receive all the love you have, all the love your husband has, and the love from the other kid.
Oh, I love that.
So they're actually getting more love than the first kid got.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's beautiful. I like that. And then so we had a third, and it was like, absolutely. We brought that little nugget home, and he's just a little lump, set him on the bed, both of his sisters just came and just started kissing on him and loving on him. Even to this day, they just treat him like a little prince, you know, and he gets all the love in the world. And, you know, obviously from my wife and I, we love him and we give him just as much love as everybody else. So it's like, it's actually, the love actually multiplies, you know?
That totally makes sense.
I feel like it's not like you don't have like a finite amount of love to give, and now you have to split it. It's like your love grows. You just like it multiplies, and you can just give more.
I love that you said that.
So.
I love that you said that. Yeah, so that's the biggest thing. But in terms of business, just hunkering down, perfecting processes, and you know, just serving my current clients even better. But I'm also building what I'd call the Profitable Gala Playbook, and that has, you know, the whole Super Bowl analogy in it.
This is like a course.
It eventually will be a course. It'll be workshops, boot camps. But what I'm really trying to do is, you know, a lot of times when you Google how to plan a gala, you get just this massive list that's like
to-do list.
Get sponsors.
Yeah. Just a
find
checklist.
a venue, a checklist, right? What I'm aspiring to build is something that goes deep into each one of those areas and is like, well, how many sponsors do you need? How do you know what the right sponsor is? How do you engage them? How do you talk to a sponsor? How do you talk to them? I mean, I have a masterclass for my clients coming up in January where I've hired a consultant who's really, really good at that to teach them about that.
So this is a service you're providing to your clients.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, because they have such a need for it, and I don't have firsthand experience with it. I've been in sales my entire life, so I can teach them probably more than they know. But bringing in somebody who really knows what they're talking about, I'm super excited to do that. So that's what this next year is about, is perfecting how I deliver you information to have a really successful gala, packaging it into something that eventually can be a book, a course. Okay. But that's really it. I'm just going to be hunkered down this next year, just having a baby, having an infant.
Are you trying to do less events, more events?
I'm trying to do about the same amount, not too much more.
How many events do you shoot for a year?
I shoot for like 25 to 35. Okay. That's a lot. But, you know, this is my second, and I will tell you, I have done events leaving funerals, having concussions, being sick. Nothing is actually harder than being sleep deprived and doing an event. That's actually really hard for me. We pull it off. We get through it, you know, but you know, just due to that, I'm like, let's limit the amount of events this year and let's just hunker down a little bit. In 2026, I'll probably grow that number.
Yeah. But as your kids get older, you can kind of...
Yeah, as they sleep a little bit more and, you know, I'm not up feeding them all night and stuff like that, right?
Are most of your events weekdays or weekends, both?
They're mostly weekends, and fundraising seasonal. It's spring and fall.
Okay.
So...
Why is that? Well, end of the year, fall is probably end of the year giving?
Yeah, and holidays. You don't do anything close to the holidays. And then summer travel.
Okay.
So I do like 8 to 10 events in April, for example. Okay. So, I mean, when I'm on, it's like event after event.
So you kind of have two seasons, and it kind of comes out. As soon as you're wrapping up the events, you're starting to kind of help plan the next events?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Nothing happens in July. Nobody plans anything, books anything. July is like a dead month. Other than that, pretty much there's meetings every month and events in the spring and the fall. So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Why don't you tell our audience, we'll wrap up here, where they can find you. If someone has a nonprofit and they're interested in your services, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. Well, going to my website is always good, auctionsbydani.com.
D-A-N-I.
Yep. Dani's D-A-N-I. Auctions by Dani on Instagram too. I just started that account to kind of move it away from my personal account, so I'll be posting stuff there. Cool.
If you need help making content for that, I know some good people.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I can put you in contact with them.
Yeah, because
after this.
Yeah, and I'm extra bad at taking photos or documenting my life because I'm a very in-the-moment person. Yeah. But I'm getting better at it. And then next year, we'll start having, you know, tips coming out every week and just more helpful stuff. I'm teaching some classes for the Colorado Nonprofit Association too, so... but yeah, I would say going on my website, if you need to get a hold of me, I always do free strategy meetings with anybody too. So like, you just have some questions. I want to chat with you. You've never done a gala before. I'll help you assess if you're ready to do it or not. Those
are my favorite calls, discovery calls. We call them discovery calls. I don't know what we call them. Yeah. Yep. Just like, hey, let's chat about what's going on. What are you guys trying to do? Like, what
Yeah.
do you want? And maybe we're a good fit. I've told people they're not ready for a video
Yep.
too. I'm like, nah, you need to dial your messaging in, finish your website, and then we'll hit me back in 6 months. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, if this has piqued your interest at all, reach out to me.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to get to know you anyway, and I can introduce you to people, sort of whatever you need. So,
Dani's amazing at connecting people. That is like your superpower, is connecting with people and connecting people. You're a connector. Me
Yep.
too. You're way better at it than I am, but you've connected me to a lot of great people.
yeah,
So.
yeah,
Well, thanks for your time today.
yeah. Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
having me.
That wasn't too bad, right?
No, not
All
bad.
right. See ya.
Peace.